How's you going, boys? Welcome back to Grampie's Workshop. Mike here, so I'm glad you dropped in again today. In the shop today we're continuing with our little job on rebuilding that small horsepower lawnmower engine, the Briggs Stratton. Carrying on this series where I wanted to strip the motor completely apart, check all the parts, try to figure out why they're the way they are, then put it back together and make it work. So one of the things I'm up to today is I want to organize and sort out all the parts. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to lay them out on the bench there, try to identify them all, and see what we have. Let's go have a look. So here's the table with all the parts laid out on it, or most of the parts. So what I want to do is take each of the parts, like I know that's a gas tank, but you know, label it so I'll know where it is, know what it is when I see it, and where I can go to grab it. But things like well, like this right here, like, what is that? I'm not sure what it is. No, I don't know what that is. But anyway, in order to help me with that problem of trying to identify all these parts, I got a Briggs Stratton parts manual here. So in this, there's the blow-up diagram, and then lists all the parts. There's the you know, the assembly drawings and all the part numbers here. But just to try to help me to get my motor identified, all the parts of my motor identified, I'm going to use this manual, and I'm going to try and tag all the parts and then lay them out. Okay, to get started, we're going to open up the manual. The first part, it says it's a tube breather, and it's reference number 11B. So if I check here, there's 11B right there. And that's a little, looks like a little plastic rubbery tube. And I think that's it. So I'm going to take some masking tape here and just sort of stick it on there. And I'm going to mark this 11B, just like that. So now I'll just put that aside, and I'll know that that's part 11B. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue through this. Air cleaner gasket 163. I have a whole complete gasket kit, so we won't search for that one. Mechanical governor link 202. Here it is, mechanical governor link 202. This is an interesting one. You probably can't see it, but that's a piece of wire that's stretched out, looks like that. And also 209B goes on that one. That's that little, it's the return spring. So this one is called 202, 202, and 209B, 209B. Alright. So anyway, what I'm going to do is going to go through all this, identify all the parts, lay them out here on my table, and then I'm going to start examining them to try to figure out what each part is for and why it's made the way it is, and perhaps get a better understanding of how a small engine works. And then I can start putting her together. So I went through my little manual here, and I marked all the pieces with tags, or most of the pieces with tags. So now as I'm looking through the manual, I've highlighted them so I can pick out the part I need and start assembling the engine. One of the things I'm curious about, and one of the main reasons I wanted to do this project to strip the engine apart, like to find out about all the different parts and pieces, was to try to get a better understanding in my little brain about what each of the pieces are, what they do, and like why they're part of the engine. Well, a good example here on the head, or on the cylinder assembly and crankcase assembly. There's this piece here. It's called a breather. That goes on the side here when the engine's assembled, right? The valves go in here, and in this little window here in this cavity, you can see the valve stem, and then the tappets that run on the cam. This is the camshaft here. The tappets that run on the cam sit down here below, and they'll rise up and down to push on the valve stem to open and close the valve. So the reason for this cavity is so that you can get in there, put the valve springs in to keep the valves closed. And if you need to make adjustments in the valve stem, this is where you would measure it. So that's why that cavity was there. So I understood that pretty clearly, but then when I looked at the breather valve, I said, oh look, in this breather valve, there's a little reed valve in it. And why do they even call it a breather valve? There's a reed valve in it, like I say, and that reed valve opens up and allows air passage from this opening, or through the opening where the reed valve is, and into this opening here. So I'm thinking, okay, that's a breather, must let something breathe, but what's it letting breathe? So when I follow that opening back, that opening is this opening right here, and that goes along this tube, which is a separate part, by the way. And that tube, before I stripped it all apart, it had this little rubber attachment on the end of that, and that fed into the air cleaner. I forget how it went. Anyway, when I get it all assembled, you'll see that. And what I'm figuring is this is allowing exhaust gas and crankcase gas, whatnot, to recycle back into the carburetor so that it can be drawn back into the engine and reburn it. So this is a type of an environmentally environmental modification to allow it to burn cleaner, like they do in car engines where they have exhaust gas EGR valves, exhaust gas recycle valves. So I think that's what that's all about. But I don't know. But anyway, it's interesting. Just like another thing on this head, this passageway down here, that allows gas or pressure or whatever from in this crankcase to go out through this hole here. I don't know how good you can see that. What pressure, air, whatever is in this crankcase would pass out through this opening right there. It would go along this channel because there's a cover that goes over that. Here's the cover, so that cover will go on there to seal that channel, and there's a gasket goes on that cover. So then that comes along here and it goes in right here and it comes back open. There's an opening right here in this cavity that I was just talking about where the valve stems are. So that is also allowing crankcase gases to get up into this chamber so that that breather valve can then take it, if there's excess pressure, pass it through this tube back towards the air cleaner and carburetor to draw it back into the engine to be reburnt. So you know, that's, I think, all part of the exhaust gas recycling process. Now I may be totally wrong in that, but that's what I think it does. And there's a gasket that goes on this cover, and like I say, that cover goes on here. So my thought is, what happens if this gasket leaks, if I have a leak in this system? That's the sort of thing I was wanting to find out more about. And also, what sort of fault would show up in your engine if this breather valve was plugged, for example, you know? What would that make your engine do or not do? So, you know, that's the thing that's making me curious. So, this is all the pieces. I have them relatively clean. I spent a lot of time cleaning them up. They're relatively clean. They're clean enough to assemble. I can handle them without getting dirty, and that was sort of my objective as well. I didn't do much with the carburetor. The carburetor is in, I think, really bad shape. I never even had it apart. But like this lawnmower sit out behind the shed for 10 years or more. Never ever had the gas taken out of it. It wasn't treated in any way. So I'm thinking this carburetor is toast. And it's been my experience, and I'm no expert, but it's been my experience that 95% of the problems you have with small engines are carburetor related. I went online and I bought myself a carburetor for this model, and when you see the price of these, you know, it certainly takes the glow off of trying to clean your carburetor, because you can replace the whole carburetor. Well, it was less than $25. Let's just say, I forget what the price was, but I'm sure it was less than $25, or else I probably wouldn't have bought it. But anyway, that's my layout. I'm going to start to, I have to get some assembly lube. I'm going to town next week. I'm going to get some assembly lube. Now, I had lots of questions about what I should use for assembly lube. This was interesting too. I thought I'll just, you know, put WD-40, or not WD-40, I'll put like motor oil on it, 10W30 or something like that. But when I started researching a little bit about assembly lube, they say you should use assembly lube in areas that the oil bath that's in the crank might not get to, you know, right away. It's something where, like, once your engine is operating and everything is totally coated in oil, then, like, if you park your engine and then start it up a week later, there's still a lot of oil on these little parts and whatnot. But when you assemble the engine from clean, there's no oil anywhere, then those parts are bone dry. So you should put a little bit of lubrication on those parts that it will take them a while to get lube to them under normal operating conditions of the engine. So anyways, I was just going to use like regular engine oil, 10W30. But when I started doing some research, they say you should use a heavier weight oil. Like, as long as it's compatible with the oil you're putting in your engine, and as long as it's soluble with the oil that you're putting in your engine, then the heavier the better, because then that lube will stick around on the pieces and parts that you're working on until the actual engine lube can get to there. So I'm glad I found that out, because I was just going to put 10W30 on it, but now I think I'm going to get some real, what they call assembly oil. So, I don't know. I have, like I was showing you there, I have the parts manual, so that shows a blow-up picture of the engine. When I took this engine apart, I never videoed it, and I did that on purpose as well. Sometimes before, you know, when I'm working on equipment, I'll videotape it, and then when I'm putting it back together, I'll say, gee, you know, exactly how did that throttle go in there? So then you go back and you look at the video. Oh, look, that's how it hooked on. Well, I didn't do that here on this engine on purpose, because I wanted to figure out how things went together, and then maybe that way I'd get a better understanding of why it went together the way it did. I'm hoping that when it comes time to assembly, that part will be sort of fall together. But anyways, if not, I have to figure it out, right? So it's not going to be rocket science, that's for sure. So a quick little video here, but I just wanted to give you an update on my small engine rebuild project that I'm undertaking. Hope you didn't find it too boring. But anyway, a good start here. I got all the parts labeled. Just have to get some assembly lube now, and I can start putting her back together. So stay tuned for those exciting episodes. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, so I'm glad you dropped in. It's always nice to have new people come to Grampie's workshop. And for my regular viewers, thanks, boys. Can't thank you enough for what you do for my channel. And don't forget, thumbs up me and share. That's always nice too. And you can subscribe. I don't mind that one little bit. Take care, everyone. Stay warm. And we'll talk to you.